Some pickup trucks weren't just badly built. They were actively trying to kill you. We're talking about machines that exploded, snapped in half, rolled over for fun, or quietly tried to burn your house down while you slept. Trucks so dangerous that lawyers, insurance companies, and automakers all quietly hoped you'd forget they ever existed. Today, we're counting down 10 of the most lethal, recalled, and catastrophically engineered pickup-based death traps ever sold. If you own one and survived, you didn't just drive it, you escaped it. Number 10 to 1970 Chevrolet El Camino SS 454. The El Camino SS 454 was Chevy asking, what if we build a muscle car that still has to pretend it's a truck? So they stuffed a 7.4-liter big block V8 under the hood, around 450 horsepower in period tune, into a chassis that still thought it was a regular car. It could do 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, which was insane for 1970. The problem? It still had passenger car brakes and suspension. You had 4,000 pounds of steel, a tidal wave of torque, and drum brakes that were basically a suggestion to slow down. With an empty bed, the rear end was so light you could spin the tires at highway speeds. Load the bed, hit the gas, and the nose would lift like a speedboat. Hard acceleration made the rear axle hop sideways. Drivers called it the death wiggle. One journalist said driving it felt like riding a mechanical bull that actually wanted you dead. Insurance companies caught on fast. Premiums went through the roof. Chevy blamed emissions and killed the SS 454 after 1 year. The real reason? Too many owners were meeting trees, ditches, and other people's cars at speed. Today, collectors pay big money for them, which is fine, as long as they also budget for brakes, tires, and a very understanding insurance agent. Number 9, 1989 to 1991 Dodge Dakota Convertible. Somebody at Dodge looked at a pickup and said, you know what this needs? Less structure. So they cut the roof off. The Dakota Convertible was a factory soft-top pickup. No proper roof, no real pillars, and apparently not a lot of engineering sanity. Trucks rely on the cab structure for rigidity. Dodge removed it and hoped for the best. Hit a bump, and the whole thing flexed like a wet noodle. Owners reported doors jamming shut because the body twisted so much. The manual top took 2 people and 10 to 15 minutes to raise or lower. Get caught in a surprise storm? You, your seats, and your pride were all soaked. The top never sealed right, either. Water leaked in, dust poured in, and at highway speeds the wind noise was louder than the engine. Dodge planned around 2,000 units. Ended up building about 3,700, mostly because dealers couldn't give them away. It's still the only factory convertible pickup ever sold in America. And there's a very good reason nobody has tried it again. Number 8. International CXT, 2004 to 2008. International saw the growing pickup market and said, half tons? 3/4 tons? That's cute. Hold my beer. So they took a medium-duty truck platform, the kind used for dump trucks and snowplows, and turned it into a pickup for civilians. The result was the CXT, 9 feet tall, 8 feet wide, 21 feet long, and about 14,000 pounds empty. That's 3 Honda Civics stacked in a trench coat. The hood was so high you literally couldn't see a normal car stopped in front of you. International solution? Basically, be careful. It had air brakes because normal brakes couldn't handle it. In some states, you needed a commercial license just to drive it to Costco. Parking lots, garages, regular gas stations, forget it. The turning radius was measured in city blocks. Safety? No crumple zones, no airbags, no stability control. In a crash with a normal car, the CXT didn't collide. It climbed over. Police reports from CXT accidents used words like catastrophic and unsurvivable for the other vehicle. They sold for around $100,000 to $150,000, marketed as the ultimate status pickup. What they didn't say was that the status included the ability to accidentally crush anything in your path. Production ended quietly. International never bragged about how many they sold, and you can guess why. Number 7, Reliant Ant, 1960s, 1981. Now we go to Britain, where someone decided a 3-wheeled pickup was a good idea. The Reliant Ant had 2 wheels in the back and 1 in the front. That gave it all the stability of a barstool on ice. It was tall, narrow, and carried its weight way up high. Turn faster than walking speed, and you'd lift a rear wheel. Turn harder, and the whole thing just tipped over. And this wasn't a toy. It was a work truck. The bed was meant to carry loads. Add weight, and it got even more unstable. Cargo shifted, the balance changed, and suddenly you're trying to keep a three-legged ladder upright in a windstorm. Its party trick was something drivers called reversing terror. Because of the single front wheel, backing up with any steering input made the rear swing wildly. Construction sites banned them after too many accidents. One safety inspector compared watching an ant reverse to controlling a shopping cart full of explosives. Rain turned it into a spinning top. Snow? Forget it. A crosswind could shove it into the next lane. Eventually, the government required special licenses just to drive one. Not because it was fast, but because it was that dangerous. Why three wheels? Not engineering. Taxes. In Britain, three-wheelers were taxed like motorcycles, so they were cheaper. Buyers saved a few pounds in tax and paid it back in stress and near-death experiences. And somehow, this thing stayed in production until 1981. Proof that bad ideas can live a very long time. Number 6. 2004 to 2015 Nissan Titan, first generation. Nissan's first full-size pickup came out swinging in 2004. Big V8, bold styling, lots of marketing. On paper, it looked like a real competitor to the Big Three. In reality, it was a rolling list of what can fail next. The rear differential used a Dana M226 unit with axle seals that loved to fail. Once the gear oil leaked out, metal started grinding metal. Owners would hear a howling noise that got worse and worse until the diff exploded. In some cases, it locked the rear wheels at highway speeds. Then came the radiators. The plastic tanks cracked, letting coolant mix with transmission fluid through the cooler lines. You didn't know anything was wrong until the transmission started slipping. By then, you were buying both a new radiator and a new transmission, usually to the tune of $5,000 or more. Exhaust manifolds? They cracked. The ticking sound got louder, leaks got worse, and exhaust fumes could make their way into the cabin. Catalytic converters failed early, often triggered by those manifold issues. Some trucks went through multiple sets before 100,000 miles. The brakes were undersized for the Titan's weight. Rotors warped in as little as 20,000 miles. Calipers seized. Panic stops turned into white-knuckle moments as the truck pulled violently to one side. And then there were the electrical gremlins. Random dead gauges, airbag lights for no reason, power windows quitting, stereos dying. One owner reported his entire electrical system shutting down at night on the highway. No lights, no power steering, no power brakes. Just 5,500 pounds of truck coasting in the dark. By 2015, Nissan basically threw in the towel and redesigned the Titan from the ground up. They never publicly admitted how bad the first gen was. The used market did that for them. Number 5. 2003 to 2007 Ford F250/F350 with 6.0L power stroke. If you've ever seen a diesel mechanic flinch when you say 6.0 power stroke, this is why. Ford teamed up with International to build a modern, clean, powerful diesel. What they got was one of the most notoriously fragile engines ever put in a heavy-duty pickup. The EGR cooler liked to rupture, sending coolant into the intake. Owners would start their trucks and see white smoke pouring out like a fog machine. Head gaskets were weak, and when they failed, oil and coolant mixed into a chocolate milkshake of doom. The fuel and oil systems were a minefield. The FICM overheated and died. The high-pressure oil pump failed without warning. Turbos stuck open or closed. Oil coolers clogged. Every major component seemed determined to self-destruct, and it didn't always fail gently. Picture towing 10,000 pounds up a grade when the engine suddenly loses power. No boost, no response, steering goes heavy, and you've got a trailer shoving you downhill in traffic. That's not just inconvenient, that's dangerous. Ford's initial response? Blame the owners. Wrong maintenance, bad fuel, modifications, anything but the design. Dealers got tired of the fights. Some flat out refused to work on 6.0s. The aftermarket stepped in with bulletproofing kits, $4,000 to $8,000 worth of upgraded parts to fix what should have been right from the factory. Better head studs, improved EGR and oil coolers, revised gaskets, and so on. Class action lawsuits piled up. Ford extended some warranties and quietly improved parts over time, but the reputation was already burned. To this day, say 6.0 power stroke in a diesel shop and watch the eye twitch. Number 4. 2021 to 2023 Ram 2500/3500 diesel. You'd think by the 2020s we'd be past trucks trying to kill you in new and creative ways. Ram said, challenge accepted. Between 2021 and 2023, heavy-duty Ram diesels had an intake heater grid relay that could overheat, melt, and catch fire. That's bad enough. The fun twist? It could do this with the engine off. Owners would park their trucks in the garage, go to bed, and wake up to their house on fire. Reports started appearing. A Texas owner saw smoke under the hood of a parked truck and opened it to find flames. A 2022 Ram 3500 burned to the ground in a driveway in Michigan, taking a shed with it. The truck had been parked for hours. By 2023, Stellantis had to act. They recalled over 300,000 trucks. Their first fix: tell owners not to park indoors. Seriously, you spend $70,000 on a truck and the manufacturer tells you, yeah, don't put that near your house. Officially, there were a handful of confirmed fires and one injury. Unofficially, forums were full of melted relays, near misses, and smoky underhood incidents that never made the stats. The permanent fix was an updated relay design, but the trust was gone. Some owners dumped their trucks at a loss just to stop worrying about their garage turning into a bonfire. The worst part? Intake heater grids aren't new tech. Diesel engines have used them for decades without spontaneously combusting. Somehow, in 2023, Ram still managed to turn a basic component into a fire hazard. Number 3. 1995 to 2010 Toyota Tacoma and Tundra frame rust. Toyota built its name on bulletproof reliability. Engines that run forever, transmissions that refuse to die. But between the mid-90s and 2010, their trucks had a dirty secret. Frames that rusted from the inside out until the truck literally broke in half. Owners in the Rust Belt first noticed surface rust, nothing unusual for salty climates. But this wasn't normal. The frames were rotting from the inside where you couldn't see it. Leaf springs punched through frame rails. Spare tires fell off on the highway. Brake lines snapped because the sections of frame holding them simply disintegrated. One contractor in Michigan heard a loud crack while driving his Tacoma. The bed had partially separated from the cab. The frame had snapped just behind the cab. Another owner jacked up his truck for an oil change, and the jack went straight through the frame like it was cardboard. The scariest failures happen while towing. Frames broke at the hitch, sending trailers loose across highways. One Tundra owner watched his boat trailer pass him on the interstate after the frame let go. Toyota's response went through the usual stages: deny, blame road salt, blame owners for not washing the underside. Then came a $3.4 billion class action lawsuit. Turns out the frame supplier hadn't properly applied anti-corrosion coatings. The recall was massive. Dealers inspected hundreds of thousands of trucks. If the frame was too far gone, Toyota bought the truck back at 1.5 times book value. If it was borderline, they treated it. In severe cases, they replaced the entire frame. That meant lifting the whole body and drivetrain off, rolling in a new frame, and rebuilding the truck from the ground up. It took weeks and cost Toyota thousands per vehicle. Even now, plenty of affected trucks are still out there. Some missed the recall window. Some were bought used with no idea of the history. From the outside, they look fine. Underneath, they're one pothole away from folding in half. Number 2. 1973 to 1987 Chevrolet GMC C 1500 with side saddle tanks. If you want the single deadliest design decision in American truck history, this is it. In 1973, GM wanted more fuel capacity for their pickups. Instead of putting the tank inside the frame rails, they mounted it outside the frame, between the frame and the body. They called it side saddle. In a side impact, the tank was the first thing hit. No frame protection, no crumple zone, just a thin metal shell full of gasoline waiting to be torn open. And that's exactly what happened. In a crash, the tank could split, fuel would spray, and any spark would turn the truck into a rolling flamethrower. Victims weren't just injured, they were burned alive. Over 2,000 people died in fire crashes involving these trucks. That's more than 20 times the death toll of the infamous Ford Pinto. Thousands more were badly burned and disfigured. Internal GM documents later showed engineers had recommended putting the tank inside the frame rails. Management overruled them because the side saddle layout allowed up to 40 gallons of capacity, a selling point. GM denied, deflected, and lawyered up for years. When the government finally pushed for a recall in the 90s, GM refused. Their solution was a $1,000 coupon toward a new GM vehicle. Many of these trucks are still on the road today, still carrying those side-mounted tanks. 50 years later, the design is just as bad as the day it left the factory. Number 1. 1984 to 1990 Ford Bronco II. If you asked an engineer to design a vehicle with the highest possible chance of rolling over, they'd probably sketch something that looks a lot like the Bronco II. Short wheelbase, narrow track, tall body, high center of gravity, stiff suspension, every box for instability was checked. At about 158 inches long with a 94-inch wheelbase, it was shorter than many compact cars but sat as high as a full-size truck. The track was narrow, the center of gravity was way up in the danger zone that Ford's own engineers were so worried during testing that they refused to complete some maneuvers. Internal documents showed they recommended widening the track by 3 to 4 inches to improve stability. Management said no. It would cost money and delay launch. They had to compete with the Chevy S10 Blazer, and safety wasn't going to get in the way of sales. So, instead of fixing the problem, Ford quietly removed the most dangerous handling tests from their evaluation program. If a test might roll the truck, they just didn't run that test. Out in the real world, physics didn't care. Bronco IIs rolled in everyday situations, swerving to avoid a dog, hitting a pothole, taking a normal corner a little too fast. The rollover death rate was more than triple that of the already infamous Suzuki Samurai. Over 800 people died in Bronco II rollovers. Hundreds more were paralyzed or badly injured. High school athletes, parents, young couples, normal people doing normal driving. Consumer Reports slapped it with an avoid rating. Some insurance companies refused to cover them. When insurers who love taking your money won't touch a vehicle, you know it's bad. Ford's public stance: blame the drivers. Too fast, too aggressive, wrong tire pressure, anything but the design. Lawsuits later revealed Ford had tested competitor SUVs and found them much more stable. They knew the Bronco II was the worst of the bunch. They sold it anyway. Ford finally killed the Bronco II in 1990 and replaced it with the Explorer, which would have its own rollover scandal a decade later. Different truck, same story. These trucks prove a simple point. When you ignore physics and cut corners, the road keeps the receipts. Which one do you think was the worst offender? The firebomb GM, the folding Toyotas, or the rollover Bronco II? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more brutally honest stories about the cars and trucks they'd rather you forgot, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.